Planning a fishing trip shouldn't feel like a full-time job. With fishingbooker.com, you can find and book the perfect fishing trip within minutes. Fishingbooker.com connects you with trusted fishing captains around the world. Booking is fast, easy, and secure, with access to verified customer reviews, loyalty rewards, and around-the-clock customer support. Everything you need to book with confidence is in one place. So head to fishingbooker.com and start planning your next fishing adventure today.
Scree gear is more than apparel. It's a tribute to the relentless, the tireless, the true guardians of the wilderness. It's for those who seek not just a game, but a legacy. Not just a sport, but a way of life. In our gear, you're more than a hunter. You're a story, a tradition, a legend in the making. Scree is your journey, your triumph, your success. Join the working man revolution. Success awaits.
All right, welcome back to the Survival and Basic Badass Podcast, Kevin and Chuck. Today, well, we're going to talk about all the things that are going to make your homestead a little bit secure. Basically, the kind of full phase of home security, but also what do you really need to get through the apocalypse with your homestead? I mean, what are the essentials that it really comes down to? But first, shall we catch up? What's going on this week, Kevin? What have you got?
I took a CPR class this week, and whatever. It is what it is. All the dummies and all that sort of stuff. They had a fat person dummy and a regular person dummy and a child and a baby and all that stuff. Why does it always seem though that the people that teach CPR are the ones that are about to die of a heart attack? They always seem like they're an extra 200 pounds overweight and they're ready to go.
On this. I have a theory. Right. Now, what if it is that they know they're on the verge, so they're like, if I can just get it so that everybody out there knows how to save my ass, I can keep going down this.
Just keep on with the donuts.
Yeah, that's how it seems to me. Now, that makes sense. With yours, did they have the dummies where their forehead lights up when you're doing it right?
Oh yeah, it was real fancy shit.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right.
They light up and it's supposed to show where the blood's circulating, but I don't really see how. I don't know. I don't see how that makes a whole lot of sense.
You're getting it to the brain?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know when I did one actually just like a month ago, and the guy's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure you broke all their ribs, but keep going. Go with it.
Yeah, that's one of the things they don't talk about with in a lot of those classes. It is, generally speaking, if you're giving someone CPR, you're going to break some of the ribs.
Well, that and the other thing they don't talk about in those classes is that people have a 30% survival rate if you do CPR.
Yeah, doesn't usually
30%.
Work. Mm-hmm.
Like pretty much, like if you fuck up and it fails, yeah, you probably weren't going to make it anyway.
Yeah.
And that's if you know what you're doing.
Right,
now,
exactly.
The odds do get better when you bring in the AED.
Mm-hmm.
You bring that up a little bit, but yeah, no, it's rough. So I am happy to report that they got my truck back. The new engine's in there. Nice. They did say, well, after we pulled out the engine, we fucked up all your transmission lines, and they call me and they say, well, you need to know that your truck is leaking transmission fluid like a sieve. And I'm like, I feel like I would have noticed that when I brought it into you, if that was happening. And they're like, yeah, because it wasn't when you brought it in, but it is now. So you got to get that fixed. And I'm like, shit. So I can't even drive it home? And they're like, yeah. And they're like, but if you give us a bunch of money, we'll do the labor for free. You just got to buy a shitload of parts that we broke. And I'm like,
yeah, it makes sense.
Just give me my truck back. What the fuck? Anyway, I got it all back together. It's all working properly. I've gone 30 miles and don't have a check engine light. We'll see.
Well, that's something. That's something.
That's something. I got the old broke down Ford. I had some carburetor work done. That's on the up. Things are there now. Except now, when the truck actually has like fuel and goes faster, you notice the exhaust leak a little bit more. You're like, ooh, now it's kind of loud. Like when it was barely running, it wasn't even a problem, Yeah. When you're at like 400 RPMs or something, it's not a big deal, but
running it a little rich, huh?
A little rich. Well, now I am. But anyway, so moving right along. So tell me about the homestead. Now, I guess there's a lot of things to take into account when you're thinking about somewhere to ride out the apocalypse.
Right.
The first one is kind of location. There's a couple things that, come into mind with that. And obviously, we don't all have a choice in where we are. Sometimes, job or family or whatever requirements, we are where we are, and we have to kind of make the best of it. Mm-hmm. But if you're picking out a location, what seem to be your priorities, Kevin? Like, what would you look for?
Well, I mean, two places that I would stay away from are, rich neighborhoods with nice houses. You know what I mean? You don't want to be a target right off the bat. The other thing is you don't want to be right on the road, but still be isolated from your neighbors. In other words, if you're going to be in a neighborhood, your neighbors can kind of watch out for you when you're not home or when you're not out in the yard paying attention. But ideally, you would be not on any sort of main road, and kind of your house is not visible from any of those roads. In other words, nobody's going to see your house or know it's there unless they've been there before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in a perfect world. But obviously, your neighbors can't see somebody carting shit out of your back door if you're kind of off the road, out of the way a little bit.
Right. So, that is one of those things, like you talk about a perfect world. Perfect world is 10-foot high concrete walls with razor wire on top of it and, trained guard dogs and, but that's just not the case for most people. And most people.
Even that, when you do the fancy protection and security and floodlights and whatever, then it's like, hey, that guy has something to hide. That has something to protect.
Right.
Something of value inside there. So again, you kind of want that happy in between of, gray man attitude for your house, if that makes sense.
Right. And, you don't want to be, there's certain things that people that are, thieves look for. One of those is a home security system that is connected to the telephone lines, because that's just an easy snip. They have a lot of cellular run home security systems, and those are, they're not indefeatable, but it's not something an average street criminal is able to, to overcome, and they're just going to move on to the next target. You don't want to be an easy target is one of the main things you want to go for. But when it comes to apocalypse survival, those security systems aren't going to do anything because the cops aren't going to show up either way.
Right. I do know in my neighborhood we had a group of kids, 18-year-olds, somewhere in that neighborhood. They stole a car. I want to say it was a police car, but I can't be sure.
Okay.
Either way, it was a fast Charger, and they came racing up my road, went right by my house, got about 2 miles past my house, and flipped it over.
Oof.
Then they all somehow got out. Now, I was told there were lots of guns in the car, and they left guns in the car. That's kind of what made me think it was maybe a police car. Because like if I leave with guns, how am I leaving guns behind? Like it just, none of it adds up, right? And they were real vague about where the car came from. They were like, oh, yeah, they went into a gas station and came out and stole a car that was running and parked
Yeah.
out front. I'm like, that sounds like a police car to me.
Yeah.
Anyway, but whatever. So that said, they go, and the reason I'm telling you guys this story is they're kind of going through backyards and there's a manhunt. They actually all got away. It's the end of the story. But yeah, there was a manhunt for like 2 days, like 30 cop cars, dogs, flashlights, the whole thing in the woods. And these people, they were so dumb. They kept trail cams were catching them all over the place. That's why I find it hard to believe that the police were unable to, because I live in one of those neighborhoods where everybody in my neighborhood has a trail cam.
Right.
And then every door they knocked on, they were met with a gun, including people who were willing to shoot at them.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, yeah, that's pretty good. I live in the right neighborhood, where you're like, oh, if I knock on that door, that might end badly for me.
Right. Right.
In order to get away, it was lots of nights of sleeping in the swamp and, crawling through the grass on your belly. But it did make me happy that, because at first they were like, oh, anybody who has cameras, we'd love to have the footage and anything you catch, the police. And I'm like, nobody here has surveillance cameras. And then I was like, oh, trail cams.
Yeah.
And then I was like, everybody here has trail cams.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, yeah, that makes more sense. And then when I was talking to the cops, they're like, yeah, we got him like 50 times on camera. But apparently that didn't do any good with apprehension.
That's not enough, though, huh?
But I don't know. Who knows? And I'm sure my neighbor buddies are listening to this going, well, that's not the full story.
Yeah.
My neighbor cop buddies. But anyway, so that's something else to think about, is like trail cams and who's around you. But your neighborhood like that. So
yeah. So that brings us up to our first first point is perimeter defense. You know what I mean? Keeping people out of your yard to begin with. There's a few things behind, about that you want to keep in mind. You don't want to have hiding spots. When you're coming home, you don't want a bush where somebody can just be hiding, waiting for you to come home and jump out at you. You know what I mean? You want to have a clear view when you pull up in your car. You want to have a clear view of your front yard, and that also goes back to when you're in your home, you want to be able to look out and not have a bunch of blind spots. Now, most of those blind spots that you're going to have in your yard are going to be, like under your windows or, at the corners of the house. There's not a lot you can do about that, but you want to minimize those as much as you can, like thorn bushes under your windows and things like that. A lot of people have privacy fences, and those are good, but it's not difficult to hop over a privacy fence. It's not difficult to get around it, under it, whatever you want to do. But it is a good deterrent in the sense that when people see the security or the fence, it's going to be a little bit of a deterrent. They don't know what's on the other side of the fence. They don't necessarily want to jump in there and be surprised by a big dog or,
like
somebody standing right there with a pitchfork, doing some landscaping, and now you got to deal with this asshole immediately. Yeah. Another thing to keep in mind is that you're aware of who your neighbors are and who's normally coming and going from their houses. You want to be able to spot people that don't fit into your neighborhood.
Right.
I pretty much know everybody that would be driving down my street. Also, you want to have a street that like a main street that somebody can jump in their car and be gone in 2 minutes. That's no good. Ideally you would want to be at like a cul-de-sac towards a dead end, or someplace that takes a lot of back roads to get to, so you can't just take off and be gone immediately.
All right. Now, I have a little segue here. So, as far as your neighbors looking out for you and watching the cars,
Mm-hmm.
so my neighbor across the street, he's a little funny. Um, the other morning I get a text message that says, "Urgent, call me as soon as you wake up." So I'm like, all right, this guy never, messages me. Who knows? So we give him a call and I'm like, hey, what's going on? Well, I saw a car pull in your driveway last night at 2 a.m. and I don't know. And I actually have cameras. So I was like, all right, I'll check it out. And I was like, well, what did they do? Did they stay in the driveway or did they just kind of turn around? And this is the answer I got. Well, when I saw the car turn in your driveway, I got really scared and just went inside and hid. And I was like, all right.
All right.
So, that's one kind of neighbor. I was like, you didn't like peek out the window and see? Nope. I went and hid. And then I called 911. There was a car in your driveway. I didn't know what to do. And I'm like, all right, good looking out. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I did talk to my other neighbor next door who is a cop. And I was like, so what do you think's going on there? And he's like, yeah. Turns out there's a drug house up the street and the DEA's been driving back and forth over and over again. And they've been turning around in your driveway because I told them it was cool. And
maybe that's a heads up would have been nice, but
yeah. I was like, all right, that makes more sense. But I have the drug house up the street. Now, mind you,
yeah, nice.
It's probably like 2 miles away. So that's like practically a different neighborhood. Who knows?
Right.
But I just thought it was funny. Anyway, I was saying with neighbors like that, who knows? That are, well, one that say, hey, go ahead and use his yard. He's cool. And then two, the other neighbor who's like, I saw danger and I ran. I was like, nope, not me. I'm not dying for this guy. So
yeah,
right?
Yeah, I had a neighbor that asked me to take care of his dogs when he was out of town for a couple of days. So I was walking up to his house one day, and this guy comes running across the street. Yelling. He's like, can I help you with something? And I said, yeah, I'm just taking care of the dogs. And he's like, oh, I didn't recognize you. Sorry about that. And I was like, no, that's cool. I'd like that sort of stuff, Yeah.
You're the neighbor.
If somebody comes up to my house, yeah, that's the kind of guy I want. He's a little bit of a lunatic, but, it's good to have lunatics around.
And to be fair, you kind of look like you might be somebody robbing somebody's house. So
yeah, I do kind of look like a shady asshole that would do something like that.
Pretty much anybody with facial hair. I mean, what are they doing?
What are you trying to hide your face from?
That's right. Who are you hiding from? Yeah. So, all right. So moving along.
All right, so we're talking about, homestead, doomsday, fortress type stuff. So hypothetically, now home invasion isn't a very common crime. Most people that want to break into houses want to do it when nobody's around. But that might not be the case. If people are out looking for food, looking for, whatever, because they don't have their own supplies, they weren't prepared. They might be, willing to do some risky shit. So the first thing you want to do is make it very difficult to come into your house from outside. First thing on the list right there is just lock your doors and windows. I know a lot of people during the summertime, especially, like to have their windows open while they're sleeping, and that's reasonable. That's reasonable to expect. But first let's start with doors. Now I went online and I was looking up different hardware kits. It's really not very expensive to buy reinforcing hardware kits with the existing door you already have.
Okay.
First thing I would recommend is a deadbolt. If you don't have a deadbolt, you just have a knob with a lock on it. Anybody with a pry bar can just pop that thing right open. It's not a difficult thing to do. One point, having it secured on the hinges and just one point on the other side makes it real easy for a crowbar to just pop that door right open. So the first thing I would do is set up a deadbolt either at the top or the bottom of your door, in addition to what you have locked on your doorknob. Locking your doors, for one, is a big deal. That's step one. But having a door that can't be just popped open real easily makes a big difference. Even just the deadbolt on its own is going to add a lot of security to your door. Now they sell all sorts of reinforced strike plates, reinforced hinges that you can put on your door. You want a solid core door. That's standard. A lot of people have security doors. It's basically like a screen door that's metal with bars and a wire mesh. And having just an initial door like that, it's going to make a real racket, somebody trying to get in. Now, believe it or not, most break-ins happen at the front door. I would assume that they would all be in the back door, but that's not the case. There's about 30% of the people break in through the back door. About 50% break in through the front door. And the rest are usually windows or going in through the garage. So you want to keep in mind that the garage door you have and the door from the garage to the house, if it's an attached garage, should be reinforced. And it's nice for a criminal if they can get in through your garage door, and then they can be inside and spend all the time they want beating that door into your house in. So you want to have that door also be reinforced. And you can spend about $80 and really set up a good reinforced door in your front and back doors.
Right. Like Kevin mentioned, good strike plates, long screws. When you secure your strike plates, 3-4 inches, something that really gets into the studs and whatever. Again, no door. I mean, we've all seen the videos. People try and can kick through a door pretty quick, but they usually make a lot of racket. Another thing to note is 3M makes a film. If you have a lot of glass, they make a film you can put on there to make it, I don't want to say it's not bulletproof, but it will make it crowbar proof and, right. Smash and grab. Usually the way to get through those, they end up having to punch a little hole and then slowly work it back. But most of the videos I saw people trying to get through them, it took at least 2 minutes to get through glass, which is very different than non-protected glass. Right. They also sell that film in tinted or mirrored, but what are you going to say?
Yeah, and that film is not very expensive. No. You're looking at about $6 a square foot. So it might not be cost effective to do all your windows, especially windows on a second story. No. But windows near your door, windows where somebody could reach through the window and unlock a door, something like that, definitely worthwhile.
Or if you have that glass slider that you're like, well, I may as well not reinforce my door because, I can't do anything. Well, maybe that's what you need to do right there.
Mm-hmm. Now let's talk about lights. You should have good lighting around your house. A lot of people use the motion activated lights. That's good. That's fine. I have a lot of wildlife in my yard, so I don't have the motion lights in the back of the house. It'd just be going off all night long. But having floodlights that you can turn on and light up all of your yard makes a huge difference in what you're worried about outside and what they can see inside. It's really going to put somebody that's outside of the house at a disadvantage. When you have the lights off in your house and the lights are on in the yard, you're going to have an advantage. They're going to be basically blind and you're going to be able to see everything that's going on.
Right. I do know one of the big things when I moved to the South here, people all seem to have the kind of street lights in their yard, the kind of floodlights throughout. And I thought that was weird when I first moved here, but I my property came with some of that, and I kind of just went with it and embraced it. And I think it's actually a benefit. So over by my barn, there's a big, light out front that's on all night long. And same thing, I have a shop that, has a light outside there. And it just, it's nice to be able to see different areas and whatever. I have security cameras that are, supposedly the night vision cameras. And it wasn't a big deal. People act like, oh, security cameras, that's a lot of money. Dude, I paid $120 for 4 cameras. And then it was an additional $20 to have 4 more cameras. So what, $140? I feel like you could save and get there.
Right.
Mine, because of the house that I live in, Wi-Fi doesn't really pass through it very well or that kind of thing. So I ended up doing hardwired where I actually had to run wires. Still the $140 for, 8 cameras. But I know you can get the exact same set for Wi-Fi and for the same price. And, how easy is that? You just screw it in and you got cameras, Now, my wife was a little worried. Oh, well, bad people can look at our cameras, and I live in a surveillance state. She's worse than I am, going, I don't need people looking at me. And I'm like, yeah, but then now, like when that guy turned around in our driveway, we can go through and it'll flip right to any motion it saw, and it recorded it. The other day, FedEx said they delivered something. Oh, we put it on your front porch at 2:06. Easy enough to look at the camera. 2 days ago, 2:06 in the afternoon. Nope. Somebody was out on my porch and nobody came around at 2:06. And, it's that easy to verify things. I got to say, it's not a big expense, and you can really step up, your kind of home security. And that kind of thing makes a big difference.
Yeah. Now, another thing that that people go to is first floor windows. When somebody's trying to get in your house and doors are locked, nobody's home, and they really want to get in there, the first thing they're going to do is go around and check any of the windows they can access off the ground. A lot of people aren't bringing ladders around with them. I would recommend not leaving a ladder out next to the side of your house. That's
a lot of people
do. Smart step right there. But generally speaking, they're going to be looking for the first floor. And one of the ideas that I see a lot is people putting the bushes and pricker bushes and things like that right in front of their lower windows. A lot of people don't like the look of those kinds of bushes, but whatever, dude. Get a rose bush, make the wife happy, and kill 2 birds with 1 stone there.
Act like you're doing it for her, and really it's a home defense technique. I like it.
There you go. And that's one of the blind spots when you go to your windows to look outside. If somebody's around, is right underneath the window. If they're up against the wall right under your window, you're not going to be able to see them. But if you've got some sort of deterrent there, it'll kind of minimize that risk.
Yeah. That was actually one of the big things that pushed me to get the cameras was I have a solid door for the front door of my house, and it's about maybe 12-foot span from window to window around my door, to where you could like look out and see somebody. And honestly, somebody could be standing there and I can't really see them. And so that was one of the big pushes to get the cameras. Was so that I can have a camera at the front door and I can just look and, oh, look, there it is. That's so-and-so. The other thing, like the cameras, I was like, well, if somebody breaks into my shop and steals stuff, at least I have a camera on it. But I mean, to be honest, what am I going to do? Yeah, there's the guy carrying out all my shit. I mean, it's far away. Mine aren't that quality camera that I can be like, oh, look, here's the photo of the exact guy. And I got to say, like, though I said there were those 4 criminals that flipped the car. They have photos of the guys. Didn't do anything.
Still didn't
catch them. I get, oh well, we put warrants out for them. I'm like, well, yeah, but okay. Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, it helps you understand, and it's not. Hey, that's not Jim from next door. Whatever. It gives you a little something to go with.
Right, right.
You recognize the beat up truck or whatever. Who knows?
Yeah. Now another thing that is a deterrent is aggressive dogs. Now I have two fairly big dogs, and I feed them gunpowder every day and whip them with a rubber hose every day to get them all riled up. No, I don't actually do that. The thing is, most people's dogs are friendly. They might bark at you if they don't recognize you, but if you come up to them with a piece of bacon, they're going to be your buddy. And I know one thing a lot of people watch for that criminals talk about. A little dog is nothing to them. That's not even a thing. But what they'll do is they'll look in through the window, and if the dog is barking at them and then runs down the hall and looks in a room and then comes back, that means somebody's in the house. That means that dog is checking in to make sure somebody knows. If that dog's just staying right there barking at you, that's the only thing that you've got to deal with. So if that dog isn't aggressive enough or mean enough, it's not much of a help aside of alerting you to the fact that somebody's around. But I do have one of my dogs really is kind of a nasty little shit and will bite the shit out of people. So
nobody needs that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's funny. I have the one dog that I've had for forever. He's pretty chill, and then the other one that we just got, she wakes up at the night probably 3 times a night. She's got me going out with a gun, and I'm like, "Come on, you're killing me!" She's like angry, barking outside. How do you ignore it? If you're like, "Ah, yeah, shut up, go to sleep." And then you wake up and all your shit's gone in the morning, So I'm always like, all right, I got to go out there and look. And the big thing, we got like some 7-foot black snake stuck in my front yard, and apparently likes to climb the trees.
Pictures of that. Oh yeah, that's terrifying to me. That thing could just drop out of the tree on you at any time.
She's like, oh, I look up and he's like 10 feet up, just sitting in the tree watching. And I'm like, yeah. It's your big boy. He gets
I mean,
like
black snakes, they're not
every year.
Yeah, no. they're not really dangerous animals. Snakes is one of my things that creep me out, I have no problems with rats and spiders and things like that, but snakes, I ain't into it.
Yeah, they're one of the things that creep everybody out, I think, is the problem.
Yeah, they say that snakes are one of the few things that your eyes recognize and send a message immediately to your nervous system to get back before your brain even processes it. Yeah. That's like so ingrained at humans. Snakes are so ingrained in humans that it's one of the few things that immediately will make you jump back without even thinking about it.
It goes back to Adam and Eve, right? She set us all up. That's where it all fell apart?
Yeah, remember, God, because of that, God cursed men and women, but it also cursed snakes. That's one of those things. Always going to be animosity between people and snakes.
Sounds right.
Let's talk
what about home defense?
Well, let's talk about somebody gets in your house, right? And we can talk about home defense weapons, but first let's talk about a safe room. That
was my go-to. I like to go to weapons.
So somebody's in the house, right? You're in your bedroom, you wake up, dogs are going crazy barking, and then what? You got the missus there, you got your kids in the bedroom next door. You don't want to just start shooting through the walls. You're going to, shoot your kid. You want something that's going to be difficult to get in to access your family. My kid's room does have one of those hollow core doors on it. Not a whole lot of good. I do have to upgrade it. I'm talking shit. Meanwhile, my own situation isn't great. But you want to have a solid door that's not going to be able to, a hollow core door. You can just push right through those. Basically, you can put your foot right through them. They're not a big deterrent. So it is one of those things that you want to have want to have some additional, security to a spot where you can get your family and get them in a safe location where they're not going to be hurt. Now, that can be right down into the basement if it's easy access. It can be in the room itself. Whatever your plan is, you should have something, something as a go-to. Get everybody in mom and dad's room, get everybody into a safe spot where you're not going to have a whole lot of easy access to it. The most valuable thing you can have in your house is going to be your family. That's what you want to protect. Fuck a big screen TV, that sort of stuff. That's all shit. You can replace that. But the main thing is you want to have your family safe if somebody gets in the house. Let's roll right into home defense weapons. I did a little bit of research on non-lethal defense weapons. Garbage. Total garbage. There's nothing that you can get. Baseball bat, how are you going to get a good swing inside your house? You're going to get it caught on the wall. You're going to get it caught on a door frame. You can't, there's not a whole lot of places in your house where you can have a good swing with a baseball bat. I saw pepper spray recommended. Go ahead, set off pepper spray in your house and see what happens. Everybody's going to be blind. You're all going to be coughing up snot and water in your eyes and not be able to see anything. Pepper spray is not a good thing to be using indoors, not in an enclosed environment like that. I saw batons and tasers and bullshit like that. But the fact of the matter is, if you're in your pajamas or, you're not wearing anything, most of the time I don't wear anything when I'm sleeping. So if it gets, if it's going on, it's going on. It's, we're going at it, and that's how it's going to be. So, be aware of that. Be aware of those kind of pitfalls of those, non-lethal defense weapons. It's whatever. It's fine. If you don't want to kill somebody that's in your house trying to rape you, that's your own problem, dude. That's something you're going to have to deal with in your own head. But me personally, I'm going to shoot first and ask questions later. Some drunk neighbor went in the wrong house accidentally. That was the last accident he ever fucking makes, because that's just how it's going to be. You're going to want to have your home defense weapon near your bed or someplace that you can access it readily. I see a lot of people talk about AR-15s versus shotguns, and there's a lot of back and forth with that. Unless you have slugs in your shotgun, both the AR-15 and the shotgun are going to they're not going to be very lethal after they penetrate through a wall or something like that. And that's good. You don't want to necessarily accidentally shoot your kid when you're shooting at somebody that's in your house and it goes through a wall and hits somebody in the head. So both of those weapons, I think, are reasonable. So shotguns have some drawbacks, and AR-15s also do. The biggest drawback with a shotgun
if you're going with the AR-15, I would say SBR, short barrel rifle. Get something a little more maneuverable inside the house. I know in some states, and if you got the money, suppressed weapons are nice. I mean, I know to a New Yorker, it sounds like a big deal. Oh, that's whatever. But I mean, realistically, you could build yourself and buy the tax stamps some kind of suppressed AR for under $1,200. $1,200 is a lot of money. I'm not knocking that. I'm just saying, people spend that money. A good 30-30 hunting rifle is $1,000. So, you're not that far away. But
and let's be clear. Secondhand, good quality combat shotgun, you can get that for about $200 or $300. So you're saving a little bit of money there.
You let your budget dictate, what's right.
Right. Shotguns are longer, generally speaking, unless you have, one of those, shorter barrel guns, or the, stock free, I guess those are combat shotguns. But the other drawback with a shotgun is that you have a limited amount of rounds. And a lot of people say, well, how many times do you need to shoot somebody? But if you follow up on any gunfights, the amount of rounds that people fire off, they think, oh, maybe I shot 3 or 4 times and it was really, 8 or 10 or 15 or 20. And shotgun, you really have limited ammo. With most shotguns, you're looking at, 8 or 9 rounds in that shotgun, and then that's it. Shotguns are great because you don't have to be great at aiming. If you've got it loaded with buckshot, general area, if you fire in the general area, you got a good chance of shooting what you're hitting what you're shooting at. But there's also handguns. Handguns are a lot more maneuverable, a lot more easy to keep next to you. You can lean a shotgun or an AR next to the bed, but having a handgun right there is great. The drawback with a handgun, though, is the accuracy. Unless you are shooting that gun, every week, you might not be hitting anything that you're shooting at. If you're not familiar with that gun, like a second appendage, then you're going to have a serious risk of not hitting what you're trying to hit. So when it comes to down to it, I would definitely recommend any sort of firearm over any sort of non-lethal weapon. Would make a big difference to me in my opinion. I've never had somebody break into my house and have to shoot at them, but I just don't think that a baseball bat is realistic.
Oh, right, exactly. I do think when it comes to home weapons, improvised stuff, non-lethal, well, forget non-lethal. All right, that's the bottom line. We'll say non-licensed required in certain states and legal in certain states. Like shit. New Jersey, New York, a lot of that pepper spray and stuff is illegal, different things.
Right.
Now, in New York, I mean, if you want to pin me down, I think in the city you can have pepper spray. Outside, you need to go in and fill out, just like the background check you need for a gun. You need to do the same paperwork for a pepper spray in New York. Whereas,
ridiculous, but
in the South here, I can go to Lowe's and in the checkout line pick up pepper spray on my way out. So it is a little bit different. It depends where you are. Anyway, what I was going to say is the brutality that you're willing to expend is what's going to make the difference. The pen can be a deadly weapon if you're willing to freaking stab the guy in the temple with freaking rage and whatever, or stab somebody's brain through their eyeball socket. That's right. Maybe like I said, you need to be lethal or you're not going to be effective. Getting in a scrap with somebody who's bigger than you or whatever, unless you're trained and really know how to fight, then, you always run the risk. And I feel like, they say when you play to win. Well, that's pretty much what it comes down to. You need to fight to win, and you need to, commit to it. Really think of brutal options. I watch these. I gotta say, you watch like horror movies and different things, and you're like, oh, that's fucked up and sick, and whatever. But you're like, oh, that could work. Like, I see what they did there. That's you really. People don't realize they have a lot of options open to them. It's kind of like I don't kick people in the nuts, or I don't, stick my finger in somebody's eyeball socket. Well, yeah, you don't, but maybe you should if that's what it comes down to. You need to consider what your options are on the table, and because that might be
when it comes to fighting, there's no such thing as fair. Yeah. You don't want to be in a fair fight.
Somebody's not playing fair if they broke into your house.
Yeah, exactly. That's already out the window. This isn't an argument about, road rage traffic shit or, somebody cutting in line in front of you at the gas station. It's a whole different playground here when somebody's trying to get into your house, especially if you have a family you're trying to protect.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. So you do want to be conscientious of what's legal in your state, what you can legally do. I know in New York State, if somebody breaks into my house, I can't legally shoot them unless I run and hide in my room and they try and come in there.
I believe you have to have proof that you wet your pants right before.
Yeah. Or the guy said, "I'm going to kill you." Yeah. Fuck that shit. I'll let the fucking court figure that out when I'm still alive, and we can figure that out later on. But
I know at some
in that
point
situation, I'm not worrying about it.
Right. I know back when they bombed the USS Cole, the military was at a more lax state of preparedness, I would say. And they used to tell us, our rules of engagement were like, oh, if somebody comes up the bridge of the brow of the ship and they're coming aboard and they're waving a knife and are like, I'm going to kill you, then we could shoot them. And then you shoot them once and they're like, wait, stop. I'm not going to kill you. You're not allowed to fire another shot. And then they can shoot you again. And then you can, react then again. It's kind of like you have to keep reassessing for every moment. Mm-hmm. So I know if you live in some of these commie states, that's kind of the deal. Just when you say when you're telling one, dead people don't have a version of the story usually.
Right.
And two, your version should include, he said, I'm going to kill you and then kill your family over and over again. And then when they're like, yeah, but your family's on vacation in wherever and you were home alone, just say, yeah, he didn't know that. So,
whatever. Put a screwdriver in his hand, put something in his hand after he's dead. You can't do that if the guy's still alive. Yeah. But I mean, the fact of the matter is, when it comes down to you or them and they're in your house, that's it. That's it. That's the game right there, man. Kill or be killed. Whether they're planning on killing you or not. You don't know what's in their heart, Yeah.
Yeah. Colonel Rex, kill or be killed. Or kill or get killed. One of those. I don't know.
One of those
Jeff
things.
Cooper, is that what it is? I don't know. One of those guys. My favorite go-to for evening reading is kill or get killed. Yeah. We live in an ugly world, Kevin. Can't we just think about happy gardens? Other things.
Yeah, I got my garden all set up, man. I'm very excited about this spring.
Yeah. No, that's it. We got things all tilled up and whatever. My big project now is I'm running the wife wants like a big hose spigot in the garden. And of course it's, 300 feet from the nearest water supply because logically. So I dug the big trench. I got the tractor has the subsoiler and digs a big hole. And I dug out the trench, and of course, immediately the chickens all come running over and start, filling in the hole as quick as they can.
It back in.
They're implying that they're, trying to get worms and shit, but I think they're just kicking the dirt back in the hole. And and then it like just pours rain, and all the dirt falls back in and packs back in. And I'm like, all right, because everything seems to be, I have 4 hours for a project, and not the 10 or whatever that the whole job's going to take to do it right the first time, So, ongoing battle is the answer.
Yeah, I know how that feels.
But, also, V8 sent us an email, wanted to wish us a happy Memorial Day. Actually, just sent that out about 10 minutes ago, which when you're, if he downloads the podcast tonight or tomorrow night, he'll be right on point. And so I appreciate it. And I would say happy, Memorial Day is one of those where, you're remembering those that were lost. It's not quite the same as Veterans Day, but, a lot of people made a lot of sacrifices to make America great. And a lot of other countries, it was a big united front against, Hitler and World War II. We've had, some big excursions. We can talk about the French and, they maybe whatever, but, to each their own. But I'm a jackass, huh? Anyway, so bottom line, a lot of people have sacrificed a lot for freedom. And, that's a big thing. Remembering those that actually made a commitment and just realizing that it doesn't come easy is kind of, something you should kind of reflect on a little bit every now and again. You always hear, well, it's not just about picnics and barbecue. And, it's nice to embrace the good. I got to say, as a veteran, I appreciate people who appreciate America. That's almost enough reward in itself that people are out kicking ass and loving life and doing their thing, because that's what you're protecting.
Right.
Going out and having barbecues and doing that whole thing, the whole Zach Brown, chicken fried thing. That's kind of the point. It's go out and freaking love America, man. Enjoy freedom. Do your thing. And that's great. But there are guys that, that gave up shit to do it, and nothing wrong with throwing them a little honor. You got guys like Chris Kyle and all the other, millions of people in World War II, the unknown soldiers that nobody hears or cares about, that we've forgotten. And, hey, just, think of those that have given up for you is all I would say. 'Cause, that just throw them a beer, pour a shot in the ground for these guys over the weekend, and then go out and have a good time. Enjoy your family, enjoy America, enjoy life. I would say, if you're feeling lonely, I did get a report this week that New York, they're looking out for the elderly. Some of these old veterans, they're in the old folks home and whatever. Now, this isn't just for veterans. This is for old people in general. But since nobody likes them or talks to them anymore, New York Office for the Aging is giving out robots to keep old people company.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, this is terrible. This is terrible. Oh, man. They're coming, man. They're coming for you.
You don't even have to be nice to old people anymore.
Yeah, so New York, a couple of months ago, they had a robotic dog that was going up and down the streets in New York City and was observing and, watching out for crime to alert police officers. How long is it going to be before that dog has a gun on it?
And how long is it going to be before that dog is in my house trying to keep me company?
Right,
here, we got you a free dog to keep you company. And he's taking notes just in case you want to harm yourself or others. Just looking out.
Yeah. Do you know what? You know that robots are fueled by old people's medicine? This is not going to end well.
No, it can't be good. So with that, I would say you guys have questions, concerns, comments, things you want to tell us. You can email us at preppingbadass@gmail.com. You probably don't know, but we have some badass t-shirts you can get at preppingbadass.com. And that's pretty much it. We got a pretty cool Facebook group. I know a lot of you guys like to stay away from that social media. One, it's a big time sucker. And two, who the hell wants to put all your information out there? But, your information's either your robot friend is going to get it, or, you can just fill it out on Facebook. It could go either way, whatever you want to do. But I would say with that, stay safe, and we'll talk to you guys next week.
Planning a fishing trip shouldn't feel like a full-time job. With FishingBooker.com, you can find and book the perfect fishing trip within minutes. FishingBooker.com connects you with trusted fishing captains around the world. Booking is fast, easy, and secure, with access to verified customer reviews, loyalty rewards, and around-the-clock customer support. Everything you need to book with confidence is in one place. So head to FishingBooker.com and start planning your next fishing adventure today.